Please welcome Denis Weil.
Good morning. I don't know if the program, the conference organizers did on purpose that McDonald's is speaking after physical exercise, but I hope you're not too starving based on the coasting. And then when I just heard about the track bikes being out there, which I think is great, and David, we weren't asked to present food, but last night I noticed that there were some hamburgers. I don't know if you've seen them, those mini hamburgers that were served. So they were not from McDonald's, but I still appreciate the gesture. I would like to talk about, Patrick has asked me to talk about what we do at McDonald's regarding design thinking as well as design practice as it relates to service innovation. And I'm labeling my talk an update because one of the key messages I'm going to share with you is that we are still on a journey. We have kind of started this journey to really apply HCI about a little bit over 2 years ago. And we have discovered some things that work well, and we've discovered some things that don't work well, and I'm here to share both. The other thing is I'm kind of giving away my talk at the beginning. I will have 3 main messages. One is obviously the one about learning I just covered. The second one is that service design, more than any other design, goes right away to system design. And it goes to system design in 2 areas. Organizationally, because in order to bring service to life, you have to go across organizationally, but also from an offer. The offer is actually a system. You're not offering a specific product. So those are, to a certain extent, the things we are challenged with and struggling with, is how do you design a whole system 33,000 times around the world. And then the third one is really from a design thinking point of view, where we believe the really wonderful contribution design thinking can make is in visualizing. Because of the challenge of being more of an experience, visualizing is really key part in planning, because it's very hard to plan something that's a whole restaurant with all the activities that goes on with the restaurant. It's very hard to have a vision. You can have a vision for training and you can have a vision for product and menu, but how does it all come together? So that's kind of the premise, and those are the kind of things I'm going to share. The menu for today is going to be, I'm sharing 3 things. One is just give you a quick overview about innovation at McDonald's. And then picking up on the theme of the conference, actually I was very excited about to see that where to play and how to win was integrated, and because we actually used it last year for our planning for 2007. And Roger, I don't know if he's here, needs to do some better marketing job, because we picked it up on a Business 2.0 article about P&G using that method for strategic planning. And it just resonated with us because of its simplicity. And being very much an operations-driven company, simplicity, anything that you can codify is good. It goes with the culture. So I'm going to give you an update on some experiments we have done in the where to play. And then in the how to win area, I'm not going to go in on the work we actually did on the strategic planning, which was more about what we are going to do. I'm going to cover more about what we have learned on the methods to use to how to develop winning services. So how to win from a how point of view, not from a what point of view. Just a quick background on McDonald's. You probably all know McDonald's, but some key things is we are 33,000 restaurants, 13,000 in the US. So roughly there is 1 McDonald's for 10 libraries, and actually we believe that's a good thing, so I agree with Dale. We are in 119 countries. Very importantly, we are a community-based business, and I think what's happening, I have a theory on this, I think in the 80s and 90s, that whole aspect of being community owner-operator based got a little bit lost, and it somehow lost its relevance with consumers. And I think we're seeing a comeback of that. And so it got a little bit forgotten that we are actually based in the community. And it's a key part, as you will see when I present some of our challenges, it's a key part of how our business now works. So we have 5,000 owner-operators. 80% of our restaurants worldwide are owned by owner-operators. We own only 20% of them. And then if you look at everybody who works, it's 1.5 million system. When we say system, we mean both corporate-owned and franchised, so the total system employees. By the way, with a very high turnover rate, over 100%, actually over 150% in some markets. If you look at alumni, we have a huge network of McDonald's alumni, and I'm sure they're Probably some in this room right now. I won't ask you to raise your hand. When I joined McDonald's, one of the key challenges we discovered is the nature of our business. And the nature of our business is a little bit schizophrenic. We are both a goods company, we're both a services company. If you look at the back of our restaurants, we are a mini manufacturing plant. We produce products. If you look at the front of our restaurants, we are a service business. And here is a kind of a continuum developed by, I think it's from University of Michigan, that kind of categorizes different industries along a continuum of being pure goods to pure services. And as you can see, fast food service restaurants are right in the center. The reason why this is relevant is that there are some key differences between goods and services. And again, I think this is also from the same source. And those differences are leading towards that system challenge that I alluded to at the beginning. Services, by definition, are an end per se. We are not producing a product that the user takes somewhere and does something with it. We are actually giving you the real thing. It's, by definition, as a result, much more heterogeneous. And if you have a footprint of McDonald's, which basically means we have over close to 50 million customers a day around the world, we have many different segments using McDonald's in very, very different ways. So it's very hard, like persona, we always certainly should we have personas to kind of develop against. We would have a lot of personas. So we have made some progress in kind of focusing in on young adults, moms and kids as being our main focus. But in reality, we just discovered now in Europe, for example, that with this new focus on those segments, that we're leaving out adult workday lunch, which is also a huge segment. So that's why I think it's we are very heterogeneous and we're used very heterogeneously. What we produce is more intangible on the service side. Obviously, our products are quite tangible. Very importantly, and I think quite exciting, is the fact that we are every day co-producing the experience with our customers. And that obviously leads you right to the area of participatory design, and that's one of the areas we are very interested in exploring. Unfortunately, our products are perishable. So your experience with McDonald's is only as good as your last experience. For 50 million interactions a day, we can't guarantee that every single one of them is going to be a good one because there are many variables in it, as the cloning presentation from yesterday. And then lastly is the use of technology. Technology is obviously used really in a way, the opportunity for us in technology is to provide customers control. So this goes in the area of self-ordering, like kiosks at airports that you see in airlines. Obviously with cell phones and a lot of transactions to cell phones, one of the questions we are dealing with is how does that apply? Our Japanese organization has just done a joint venture with Docomo on cell phones, initially for payment, but obviously later also for ordering. So technology is a very exciting innovation area for us. Talk a little bit about the organization. We historically have always been a network. The power at McDonald's is at the periphery. It's not at the center. To my chagrin, I work at the center. We have a very lean center, and we have kind of job sharing. So the markets in the areas of the world that have most of the resources tend to do all the development, most of the development, and tend to be focused on innovations that are kind of in the 0 to 3 year range. We at the center are more focused on the longer term, 3 years plus. So our role is more around discovery and inspiration, with one exception, which is the restaurant platform, because we are obviously a franchisor, and at the core of what we franchise is our restaurant platform, our operating platform. So that's probably the only thing that's more, even that is not, we have different operating platforms around the world now, but that is kind of the most common element. So how is innovation at the center organized? The yellow is what's at the center, the global group, and the white is what's at the market level. And at the bottom, you see the timeline. We have another key thing to know is that we are lean and hopefully mean a little bit too, because we are a retailer and we are a service company. A professor in Germany on service design has done some research on average R&D spending in service companies versus product companies. And it's actually in the multiple, it's about a fifth to a tenth of the spending. So while we are a big company, our R&D spending is actually quite low because, first of all, the decentralized nature I talked about, but also because service companies traditionally rely on their suppliers to do the R&D. They pay for R&D based on the products they buy. So we would rely on our equipment suppliers to do the R&D. So it's a little bit a new thing. We would rely on our food suppliers to do a new food product. So this is a little bit new that we actually do true innovation ourselves. So our innovation planning group is 2 people. We do orchestrate, so because of all the development activities going on around the world, we are trying to bring some transparency into it by sharing, by actually creating a pipeline, documenting what our pipeline is, because it's very bottoms up, and then try to bring some portfolio management, so try to bring some top-down, at least view. Again, the power is not at the center, so we can't dictate it, but at least bring some view about how does it look from a portfolio point of view, what everybody's doing, and where are potential gaps. The second thing is we try to inspire by having the luxury of time. We are not responsible for a specific P&L, so we have the opportunity to look a little bit further out. So we do the trends research and bring it to the markets, and we do some discovery work in key concept developments. As we move into the development side, as I mentioned before, we do the development on the restaurant platform initiatives, be this the new production methods or new service methods. We really just inspire on the menu and the customer experience. We do knowledge sharing, and we do, again, some of that discovery work. Actually, what has been happening over the last 2 years is that even this thing that's a solid yellow historically is also becoming now more shared. So we are actually moving more. We just heard David talk about being the Intel of bicycles. We actually believe that our solution on the restaurant platform has to become more like the Intel chip. So we call it the our next generation operating platform we're working on. We call it D10 Inside. Because what we already realize is that the market conditions are so different that one solid operating platform or service system doesn't work anymore. What we need to provide is a platform that allows individual markets to pursue growth and customize it to their areas. So in order to do that, we kind of do the discovery ourselves, determine the principles, and right now we're involved in partnering in some key pilot stores in Europe and the US, and I can't share those at this stage, but I can tell you that they look quite different. But at the core, they have the same chip inside, but actually on how they look and what they have in them is quite different. So I want to now, with the path introduction, talk a little bit about where we play, and I want to cover, and this is the experimental part, things that we are still learning, and wish I could report success, but it's not there yet. We tried it for the first time in our 2007 planning at the enterprise level, and since those learnings, we are now in the middle of trying to use it actually more at the restaurant level. At the enterprise level, where we are doing quite well right now. We are having good success, and the main driver of our success has been a reframing and a refocus of our business 5 years ago. 5 years ago, when I joined McDonald's on a new business development group. We had a strategy of saying we need law of large numbers. There's only so big one single business can get. Therefore, we need to look at our competencies and figure out very kind of new venturing. It was fun. But it basically, being a retail business, it turned out to be quite dangerous because it was the sexy stuff was to work on our partner brands, which was Chipotle and Boston Market, or work on the new business area that I helped lead. And it really took away the focus from our core business. To a certain extent, we had lost confidence in our core business, and that then instantly translated in poor execution at the restaurant level. So our turnaround started when we got a new CEO, or an old CEO back, and decided to focus on 2 things. One, instead of building more stores, getting more customers to our existing stores. And second, really reframing a little bit to what Bamshi talked about, reframing our space. We were very focused on competing with Wendy's, Burger King, and really in the little burger category. And where the big growth was happening was outside the burger category. So we really reframed our challenge in our business to be informal eating out or convenience food. And those two things were kind of helped us to regain focus, number one, as well as to focus our innovation efforts. So the reason I'm giving you that background is that the challenge we had last year as we entered 2007 planning was, now that we've had this success, where do we go next? So we wanted to kind of frame where are the growth opportunities? What is that growth universe we could play in? And we did this kind of simplistic growth compass where in the middle we kind of identified the greens fees. This is something we have to, any restaurant that wants to grow. So this is all about growth. If you want to grow in the convenience food space, you have to do those four things. There's no discussion. But then when we looked at the market, we realized that there were different strategies on the place or the experience side. There's a lot of success in concepts that are just very simple, and a lot of success in concepts that really stage and actually prescribe an experience. And the same to be on the menu side, which is the red. So if you look at kind of examples in there, we kind of define the different directions. So under the southwest is ease, and Pret a Manger, which actually we still have an interest in. It's a UK-based, mostly London-based sandwich company, incredibly successful. It's all ready sandwiches, freshly made in the store, but then pre-packaged, and you choose it yourself. 7-Eleven in Japan, in Asia, is having incredible success with food. They have 3 times a day fresh food delivery, different day parts. They are being used basically like QSRs, quick service restaurants are being used in the US. And it's all about ease. It's very simple, and it's quite limited from a menu point of view. On the experience for you, I think Starbucks is obviously the key example. Starbucks has such a strong experience that when you do ethnography, you will notice that people adjust their hair and change their voice and change their walk when they go into a Starbucks. They don't, believe me, they don't do that when they come into McDonald's. So the experience is so strong that it actually, to a certain extent, scripts the behavior of the customer. On the right side, when we go to food of choice, there are concepts all around the world. We have Food Life here in Chicago that really go to deep experiences with the food of choice. The only way to do that is to really recreate a marketplace, because you need to have a narrative behind each of your food offering if you want to offer deep experience. So Mövenpick Marché is a concept that's quite strong in Europe and Canada, and basically it has like a pasta station and a salad station, and it's like Food Life here in Chicago. And then on the bottom right, another key growth area, which is really more in the grocery store. And we heard before about convergence in the telecommunications industry. There is convergence in the food industry as well. It's in this area of convenient food. And as you look at grocery stores that have very limited growth, very low margins, their area of opportunity of growth is prepared foods. And there are UK is the key leading in that by far. But in the US, there are some pockets. There is U-Crops in Richmond, which is actually this picture is from. There is a Wegmans, so there are some local retailers. They tend to sell over 150 to 300 SKUs of prepared food. So it's an incredible choice. It's all fresh. Obviously, they offer you microwaves there to heat it up, but most of the business is to take away, which is also the case at McDonald's. Most of our business is being taken away outside as well. So those are the 4 areas. And the purpose, what we wanted to do, and this was a little bit self-interest on the innovation side, we partnered with the corporate strategy group, and basically as part of the planning process, and told them, we have innovations going on here, we have innovations going on here and here, and we are very disparate. And the question is, what do we really want to be when we grow up? Where do we think we really want to play in? And so we very quickly eliminated this one over here, because it's just not our business. Our business model doesn't provide it. But in order to figure out what would it actually look like, so we had some ideas about innovation. We could take our pipeline and basically categorize our project into which fall under here, which fall under here and here. Most projects obviously fell under here, but not quite a bit over here. We weren't, I think only about 40% of our projects fell in this. The rest was pretty distributed. So we thought that in order to just have a strategy session with the executive team, we had one day with them, we needed to visualize a little bit what that future could look like. So on very short notice, with like 2 weeks' time, we called our friends at IDEO and said, can you help us to actually visualize what would a McDonald's look like if we would pursue any of those 3 directions? And here is kind of a quick shot at that. So at the bottom left, it would be like a food bar concept. So there would actually be no menu board. All the food would be here to see. It's a complete point and go. So very, very simple, and it's more of a bar thing. On the top left, it would be more service-oriented. So you could either self-order at the kiosk, which is on the left. This guy is just self-ordering on a kiosk. Here's a family, has a friendly hostess that takes the service. The same would be on the dining area. You would have a young adult zone. You would have an adult zone. It's a little bit what we already do. I mean, play places, to a certain extent, are in that area. And then on this side, it's basically creating a food market within McDonald's. So you would have our classic menu. You would have our promotional feature. This month it's Mexican. And you have kind of our salad side. So we thought that, and we had a whole story behind it. We had like lists of innovations that we would do. And I was very excited about going into this executive team planning session and saying, look what design can do to actually help you make decisions in strategy. It didn't play very well. So what worked is that it worked for us. I mean, the innovation community around the world got quite excited because it helped us to provide some focus. It was a cool communication tool to actually bring strategy to life, what kind of was our initial premise. It failed with our senior leadership group. It was too conceptual for them. It was like, so what? So it's like, okay, this sounds interesting, but it's not specific enough for me to really understand what we're going to do. And that's, so we said, okay, good learning. So we took it now to the next level, which is saying, so perhaps we were targeting too high a level because of the issue as the more you go high, the less specific you can be. And being an operations company, it's all about tactics and it's all about being very specific. So we said, what if we take it the level down and we take it to the level of the restaurant and we target, instead of executive team, we target market leadership. So the innovation people in France and in Germany and in the US, and basically develop a tool that allows them to complement our very bottoms-up approach with a little bit top-down. Because of our job partition of labor, most of our planning tends to be very bottoms up. We have the markets, we have all the money, they put in the 3 years plan, they say we are here today, this is what we're doing next year, and then I guess the following years we will do that. And what we are trying to do at the center is to kind of, we believe more in backcasting. So we kind of create exciting futures like you just saw before, which doesn't mean a lot to our operations people. And then we try to connect it back to where we are today and saying, if we want to go into this exciting future, this is kind of the things we should invest in today. So we think that perhaps we can use a similar tool to actually help our innovation people at the market level to supplement their bottoms-up planning with looking at the future. And we call this kind of line of sight. If we know where we're trying to go, it will be easier for us all around the world to kind of make sure that what we're doing in the short term also will bring us to where we want to go. One key constituent there is actually also our owner-operators. Actually, our owner-operators, to a certain extent, are paying the price for us not doing the long-term planning, because we ask them, we tell them next year, this is the greatest thing, you should invest $20,000 in sandwiches. And then 2 years later, we come back and said, oops, actually sandwiches wasn't the right way. You actually should put this in now. So we need, what will help us if we have a path that we can show them it is, what you're investing today is also good for the future. So the question is how to do this. So, and we're not there, we're just in the middle of it. What we have done is we basically, actually let me go back. We took this kind of system approach, identifying starting with the customer experience, identifying all the platforms in the restaurant, and hosted ideation sessions with people around the world and key leaders to basically saying, in your discussions, in your conversations, what are some of the ideas you're talking about? And basically, when we put everything together, we ended up with 683 initiatives. So there are 683 things we could do. And that people think about doing. That's the scarier part. We then kind of, we clustered it, and we actually worked with VJ a little bit on doing structuring. But at the end of the day, we used a value screen and said, which of those 683 are really good ideas? And we were hoping that most of them would be bad ideas and would be left with a small palette. We ended up with 136 actually good ideas. And we then took those 136 ideas and gave it a capital estimate. How much capital does it cost? And how much operating cost? And then tried to figure out how much can we afford? And we can afford probably 10 to 20 of those 136 things. So the solution then is we said, okay, we can't make the decision. We are a bottoms-up driven company. There will be no credibility if we at the center make the decision. Let's give a tool to our markets to actually start playing around. And that's when the idea of game and SimCity came in. And that's what we're working on right now. So we're going to give the palette of those 136 to our markets and say, go and play. And you can put in how much capital a year you believe you can spend in a restaurant. And then you can kind of build your own restaurant. And by playing through games, figure out what the right answer is. Hopefully in a year's time, I'll come back and report if that worked. So I'm running out of time. So the second part is the how to win part. This is probably a little bit more standard. It will be things that you are familiar with, that we all practice. But I tend to use this presentation for groups of people in service industry, innovators that don't come from the design field. So I will go through it relatively quickly. We kind of define it as 5 service design tools. The first one is focus on the customer journey. And I think the emphasis and the really unique part from a service business is the journey aspect. And the journey aspect is driven by the fact that services obviously have multiple touch points and are distributed over time. A tool that we have started to use and that we quite like was developed by Mary Jo Bittner at the University of Arizona. And it's called Service Blueprint. Basically what it allows you to do is you start with the customer journey in the center, and then you identify above the line what are all the physical evidence, be it product, menu, that the customer actually comes in touch with. And then below, you're saying what are the activity that the contact person does to bring that experience to life, and then at the bottom, what are the support processes. And then there are some important lines here. So this line here is really the line of interaction between the contact person and the customer. So by identifying that, it kind of allows you to quickly say what are the moments of truth. Then the line of visibility makes you more conscious about what actually is the customer seeing about what you do and what are they not seeing. And then obviously what's the line of internal interaction you need to focus on. For McDonald's, this looks a little bit like this. And as you can see, there are 2 main interactions, taking order and getting the food. There's also the annoying cleaning that happens when you're sitting at the table and they're wiping the floor right next to you, so that's obviously another interaction. I think the most obvious one that kind of helped us was this line of visibility regarding cooking food. One of the things you all know is that there is no standard thing that you can see about the McDonald's production process if you go into a restaurant. Every restaurant is different. So we are not very clear if we actually want you to see it or if we don't want you to see it. And you probably shouldn't have things online. You need to be very conscious. Things that are above the line of visibility, you want to have choreographed and actually make it quite attractive. And things that are below, you want to make sure that they are below. So that's a key learning. I'll show you in a second what we did with it. The second important one is telling a story, and telling a story in a retail environment every time you're there. This is some work we did with IDEO again. It's actually an IDEO slide. Our story today is, as you all know, it's unclear food delivery. It's quite industrial. It's quite hygiene-oriented. I call this machine our heart-lung machine. It's actually our soft ice machine. And I get a lot of success with that. So it's about storytelling. So the kitchen is obscured. We have noises that are much more industrial, not commercial. One of the insights we gained is that our noises, which are mostly beeping, customers, the only appliance that beeps in your home is the microwave. So customers automatically assume it's a microwave. We actually don't have microwaves anymore in our McDonald's, so it is not the microwave. But it's kind of interesting how the auditory signs are also sending messages. If you contrast that to the original McDonald's, this is a picture of the original McDonald's. You can visit it in Des Plaines. it was complete theater. It was very open, purposefully open. It actually, Ray Kroc called it the fishbowl. And there was theater. Where else do you see 20 hamburgers being made at the same time? It was actually quite entertaining. So what happened is that over time, my belief is that any new concept has a very intentional design. Any new concept has found some synergy between what they need from an operational point of view and what works from a customer experience point of view. Think of Starbucks. You order your beverage. They call it over to the barista. Works operationally very well. Then they have you actually do the work, and you walk over there, so they don't have to do the walk, and you actually pick it up from the barista. You get the benefit of the craftsman giving you the beverage. So that's an example of where the operational concept and the customer experience concept work really synergistically. We had that in the beginning. We lost it over time. We're trying to regain it. And the reason we need to regain it, because many of our new competition, albeit they are still niche players, but they set the expectation from a customer point of view, are more newer concepts that still have that very clear story and that integration. This is an example of our pilot store rendering, but it's actually live. You can come and see it in Romeoville, where we are trying to bring in, again, some food theater. What's in the middle here is actually the grill and the nice hood. As you can see, there's no big menu boards anymore. There's still POP material. These are self-order kiosks. And we are trying to really move away from what I call a post office experience, which, if you think about our current McDonald's experience, it's like a post office. You're walking up to a counter, you're giving money, you're ordering something. Behind it is kind of the forbidden view, which is the sorting room in the mailbag. Trying to move away from that transactional experience to more of a food event. Part of storytelling is actually, and that's some work that Birgit Marger out of University of Cologne, who is a professor of service design, does, is the importance of ritual. And it doesn't have to be a sacrifice. I discovered that we actually have a ritual at McDonald's that started all the way at the beginning. And it's called double folding the bag and handing the bag to you with the logo in front. This started at our original sales were all through a window. The original McDonald's was a drive-up, so you would park your car and you would walk up to a window and you would hand it out. So the emphasis was on this moment of truth, of this product ritual, and double folding the bag and handing it out. And guess what? We still have it today in our operating procedures. Nobody knows why we're doing it, but we are still doing it. So I'm very encouraged by that, because I think it might not be the right ritual anymore for today, but the fact that we have a ritual and are being able to actually duplicate it, replicate it in 119 countries, in 33,000 restaurants, says that perhaps there's an opportunity to find a ritual that works even better for today. The third one is the system stupid. I've talked about this. Where I'm based is partially at our innovation center, which is in the suburb of Chicago, and you'll see some pictures after it. There we do component design. We try to improve a better grill. We try to do a better service system. But at the same time, we also obviously have to do system design. And we are continuously going back and forth, because we can design the best toaster, but it's not going to work with, the timing won't be right, or the size of it won't be right to fit in our production line. So we have to continuously go back and forth. And we are struggling with this. I'll be quite honest. We are looking for good system designers, if you know any. So what we're doing right now is, the way we are struggling, what we're doing with it is, we're doing very much iterative design integration. So we design a great thing, and then we put it right back into the whole restaurant and see how it works. We do structural planning, so go from ends to means, and then figuring out if those are all the means we want to do, what ends, based on ends, what are they going to focus on. And then lastly, we have, over the last 2 years, also in parallel to the practice I lead, which is the customer experience design one, we have developed quite a strong operations research practice as well. And so the combination of the two actually works quite well. First one is experiment, which we all know. We do four level of experiments. We start with modeling, so operations research. We then do operations testing. We have a customer experience lab, and we do a pilot store. Here is a picture of our innovation center I talked about, where we do the operations testing. It's a big warehouse. It's quite secretive. You won't find the McDonald's logo anywhere. And in there we have 3 kitchens. And these kitchens, we can change within hours, actually even minutes. And we can reconfigure where we put the equipment. We can try new layouts. We can test different kitchens. This is a resource for the whole McDonald's system. So we would have Germany come in for a week, rent out the space, and actually reconfigure their kitchen. The way we simulate is that we can pick up orders from any restaurant, close to any restaurants around the world, and then we simulate. We do the. So in order to test the nonlinear basis of our business, we actually have retired people sitting in a row, and then the computer spews out exact 2 minutes before the order was placed. It spews out the order, and then we actually, the fake customer goes through the process, and we scan every time. So we can simulate completely what happens in a restaurant, and we can test how well the new experience is doing from a service time point of view, from a food waste point of view. So it's quite sophisticated. We started this 9 years ago. Actually, it was also developed together with IDEO. When I, actually one sidebar, and I'm no more over time. The best thing that happened to design at McDonald's, and there's some learning perhaps for all of us, is 2 years ago when we integrated with the operations development group. In the past, design innovation concept was a separate group and was separate from operations development. In an operations-driven company, it is good to be part of the main force, and that's really what helped. So 2 years ago, we've merged these bunch of engineers and operations people, and I was instantly jealous about their prototyping ability, which I called being able to prototype the back end. So I said, wouldn't it be great if we could prototype the front end the same way? And we have done that. So we started a year and a half ago. We have a customer experience lab in the front where basically we use set design to simulate different restaurant environments. And here is our very, very first test we ran a year and a half ago. We tested, so this is set design actually. These are just pictures. The ceiling is in this is all in this warehouse. This was actually a real counter. It's not made out of foam core, but since then we've moved to foam core. This was what we're going to put in our pilot restaurant, and we weren't sure on how much kitchen view to provide. So this one was all closed. You couldn't see anything. And this one, you could see the person preparing salads, and you could see a little bit of the prep line. And we brought in just simple, I think, behavioral prototyping, 10 people, and got their reactions, and very quickly learned that this was preferred. This one was way too high end. Then at the end of last year, we had some money left, and I wanted to stretch our capabilities a little bit. And I said, drive-through is a big part of our business. How can we prototype drive-through? So golf cart instantly came up. So here we actually prototyped drive-through. We put our customers into a golf cart. Here are our customers. And we had them in the room go around this fake kitchen with the walls being identified for curtains. And so here was the menu board, then they went to the cash window, then they went here to the present window. And we tested, it was really more capability testing, but we also got some learnings out of it. What we learned very quickly is that we are blessed. McDonald's is such a ritualistic experience that we don't need a high level of fidelity to actually get quite good learnings. And even this, which might look ridiculous from a fidelity point of view, actually customers got into it. We could see how we actually tested on, we know that eating in the car, which we, by the way, do not encourage, is very difficult. So this is, and this is the, so then we take it out of the customer experience. We take it in a pilot store. We run that pilot store. It's right next to our lab, but it's a regular store. It's in Route 53 in Romeoville. And we change it every 6 months. The last thing is imagine far and plan near, and nothing that dramatically different. Basically, again, I've mentioned before about backcasting, but also figuring out what is the right approach, what are the potential different scenarios. And I just want to talk a little bit about coffee. I brought our coffee, by the way. I was thinking of putting it here to make it more of a true coffee table experience. One of our challenges was how can we compete in the coffee market? And we have seen, obviously, we've seen the rise of Starbucks, the whole coffee destination. And the initial strategy, and it was very challenging for us because initially coffee was driven by whole experience and we struggled with it. So the initial approach we took, led by Australia and Latin America, was a quite expensive approach. It was basically doing a McCafe. We have over 1,000 McCafes now around the world. What they are is a store within a store. They are its own little counter, gives a whole coffee house experience. The crew is a little bit our experience level crew. And there's also in some cases a separate seating area with more comfortable seating. It works well. It's a very expensive investment. Well, so what Australia has done, Australia is now at 80% of McDonald's. If you go to Australia, 80% of McDonald's, there are 700 of them, have a McCafe. It's the biggest branded coffee chain in Australia and also in some Asian markets. So they started with this McCafe, and once we had that brand established, they said we can also improve our coffee on our front counter, means we can sell it through our drive-thru. And they launched the brand Espresso Pronto and now sell a lot of lattes and cappuccinos through our drive-thru. For the US, this was not our volumes in Europe and Australia. The stores have less stores, less penetration, so a store has much higher volume, therefore can afford more. In the US, that was not an option. We tested it, it was just too expensive. So in the US, we took more of a premium roast coffee approach, and we started with this much better coffee, and there's a whole strategy behind that. But as you can see, we have now just launched our iced coffee, and there are some markets that are testing also specialty coffee. So I think there's an opportunity, just going back to this backcasting, if you know the destination, also make sure, particularly when you run the system, figure out there are multiple paths and find out which path is most appropriate for the market. So these are the 5 principles, and I hope it was worth your while. Thank you, and I went way over time.